I'd actually taken a weekend homeopathy course when I was in vet school and thought it was kind of bogus. And then I had been in practice for about 5 years, getting very frustrated with conventional practice. We could not cure disease. Really, I ended up just kind of writing prescriptions all day. I felt like a drug dealer. And I was starting to think to myself, like, okay, what am I doing here?
Welcome to the very first episode of the Crunchy Carnivore podcast. I am Melissa Weidenhammer, natural rearing breeder and certified canine nutritionist, and I'm here with Dr. Jessica Levy.
Hi there. I'm a holistic veterinarian. I've been a veterinarian for 28 years, strictly in holistic practice for the past 15, I believe. And we are starting this podcast in order to bring more information to everybody around the world about how to raise our pets more naturally, how to live with them in a more holistic way. And so one of the things that we were thinking about is, what exactly does this mean to have a holistic pet, or to use holistic treatments and holistic medicine for our animals? And mostly we are talking about dogs and cats, and probably primarily dogs. So that's my background as far as veterinary medicine. I'm a 1997 graduate of the Virginia, Maryland Regional College of Veterinary Medicine. Currently, we're both living in Minnesota, or else we would not be able to be sitting next to each other. And I've been in Minnesota since I graduated vet school in 97. Currently, I have 5 dogs, 2 cats, and 3 horses. My dogs are a mini golden doodle. I always go in order of size, right? Smallest to biggest. Mini golden doodle, Schnauzer mix, Legato Romagnolo, an old pit bull mix, and my Dutch Shepherd. So hence my Dutch Shepherd t-shirts that I will probably wear on every episode, because this is what I wear to work. Yes. Well, you've had bulldogs for as long as I've known you.
Yeah. So I'm a natural rearing breeder. I had started breeding in 2018. But prior to that, I had actually, a couple years before that, was when I lost my dog that changed my life. And her name was Violet. We rescued her as a puppy, and she did not make it to 8 years old. So that was kind of a huge light bulb moment for me. But then when we lost her, that was when I was like, oh my gosh, I've wanted a bulldog my whole life. I want a bulldog. Well, then I started researching bulldogs. If anybody's ever researched bulldogs, you know that you find health problems, short lifespan, depending on which bully breed you look at. And after tragically losing my dog, that was the last thing I wanted. And so through a series of kind of serendipitous events, I found the Old English Bulldog, and then even more specifically the Levitt Bulldog. And I fell so in love with them. I became obsessed with them. Ended up talking to breeders and decided that I thought it was a really cool thing that I was going to breed dogs. And so, because there was not very many people breeding them, and they were just this kind of healthy bulldog in a sea of sick bulldogs, that didn't live very long. And so that kind of cued me into getting my first Levitt Bulldog. She was 2.5 when I brought her in. Her name was Piper. And I was just starting to ask questions about kind of the traditional practices when I got her, but I hadn't fully switched over yet. And then she had a health problem where she got this raging thing on her neck, and I could not figure out what it was. Of course, I brought her to the traditional vet, and they gave me all sorts of medicines, and it went away. And then it came back about a month later, maybe worse. And I took her back. They put her on more medications, and I was like, this is messed up. And then I think right around then was also when I found Pet Fooled, and I watched Pet Fooled. And so that's a light bulb moment for a lot of people. And that was what led me to search for a holistic vet. And I found Dr. Levy in 2017. And so since then, through my breeding program and her and I working together with every litter and just really having the same mindset, we really just wanted to create a space to bring these things to people. So that's what this podcast is for.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time coming. We've been planning this for a couple of years, but we're finally doing it. So here we are.
And we're the kind of people where we learn about new things, we research them, and then we put them into practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell people I never ask people to do anything that I myself wouldn't do or that I haven't done with my own pets. I have thousands of my clients' animals who have also kind of done things that I've asked of them and have changed their dogs' lives. And I do want to say something about breeders right off the bat.
Ooh, okay.
So,
Hot button issue.
Yep. Along the way, while I was practicing conventional medicine and kind of, started looking into holistic medicine, but during that time, I was the volunteer vet at our local Humane Society for 3.5 years. And then, so I kind of saw what was going on in the Humane Society programs. That was a little bit disillusioning. And so after that, I started my own Humane Society, and I ran my own Humane Society for another 3.5 years. And I think we rehomed upwards of 450 dogs and cats. We were really busy.
Wow.
And it does kind of come to a point, the rescue organizations, it really is a matter of the heart. And so you can very quickly get to a point where nobody is good enough to adopt one of your precious little poo-poos.
Okay.
And I mean, you definitely have to have standards of who you're adopting these animals out to. And that's where some of the bigger humane societies kind of have a poor reputation for not asking enough questions of the people who want to adopt their animals. But it also kind of gets very exclusionary at some point. And because animals are so wrapped up in emotions, and then there's all the emotions surrounding the whole rescue idea and the rescue operation. You're swooping in at the last minute to save these animals. And so people working in rescues, I found, are in a constant state of heightened emotion. And along with this, thanks for the background, y'all. Is that Willow?
Yeah, it is Willow.
So along the way, you kind of get this notion that breeders are the bad guys, and that breeders are the reason there's this whole disaster of overpopulation and not enough homes and kill shelters versus no kill shelters. And so I thought that for a while too, that breeders were the devil. And yet, once I got out of the rescue business and kind of got my brain back after a few years, and let's face it, listen, I'm down to 5 dogs, right? I'm used to having a house full. I had as many as 7 dogs of my own, and then I was always fostering, so I had 10 or 12 dogs in my house all the time. So I like having a pack of dogs in my home. My husband probably doesn't, but
he's so good about it.
He's great.
He's so good about it.
And then once I started practicing medicine, following a more holistic pattern and thinking differently about what I was doing, the implications and the recommendations that I was making. And I started changing my own pets' lives. And then breeders started to approach me because they wanted to breed puppies more naturally. They wanted healthier dogs. And over time, with the breeders that I've worked with, this is a really worthwhile cause. The way I think of it, my clients come from, let's say, 3 backgrounds in general, right? There are the people who have been doing things naturally for themselves and their families, and then one day they're like, oh my gosh, why are we not doing this for the dog? Then there are the people who are holistic curious, who are thinking about things, maybe new information is coming to their attention, and they're like, well, let's do the dog first and see how this goes. And then there are probably the vast majority of my clients who have had a previous health disaster with a pet that has gone really badly. And that's where you start to think, maybe if I started with a puppy or kitten that didn't have so much baggage, that didn't have so many problems to start with. And that is where I think the natural breeders are filling a huge need. Right? There are, Minnesota as a state, I'll say, we have tons of dog rescues. I mean, it's huge here. Minnesota, I don't know if we're known for anything other than, the movie Fargo and freezing cold.
Mall of America.
Oh, my understanding is that Fargo is actually in North Dakota.
It is.
I don't really know where things are. But we are a dog-loving state. We find homes for dogs like you would not believe. There's a constant flood of dogs from other states to Minnesota. There's a million rescues here. They do a great job. Many, many, many of these dogs come from puppy mills. There are rescues whose sole mission is to go to the auctions and buy the puppy mill rejects. It has gotten to the point where the puppy mill breeders don't even bother taking their dogs to auctions. They just call the rescue directly and say, if you don't take these 10 dogs by Monday, we're going to euthanize them. Which is great. And those dogs need homes.
Right.
And yet they're ill. They are not socialized. They haven't been handled a lot. And I feel like at times I worry that we are running into a deficit of healthy dogs. In general, because there has been such pre-programming that breeders are bad, there's overpopulation. We don't need more dogs. We do. We do. We need more healthy dogs because in America, we are at the risk where, just like a lot of the humans here, every dog now has its illnesses and we're running a serious deficit of healthy dogs. And so that's what I see in the breeders who I work with. These people are really seriously, their only interest is in the health of their dogs, the health of the puppies that they're producing. And I have a ton of respect for that because that really is kind of going against the grain where everybody is rescue, rescue, rescue. And so 4 of my dogs were rescues for one reason or another. The 5th I bought from a breeder, and I don't feel bad about that.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up. That's I think a huge piece of what hopefully we can, accomplish through our information and things that we do is that, the dog world has become the animal world in general, the world in general, but the dog world we'll talk about today is just so divided and so emotionally charged, and everybody is so ready to attack everyone else and put you in a box, if with a label and hate you for whatever it is. And I'm not just talking about breeders because that's where I come from. I mean, the dog training world is like insane. If you fall into the stuff on dog trainers and the different approaches and the different, and that's animal abuse or that's, whatever. It's like hopefully we can kind of cut through all of there's like politics at this point. Like you're not allowed to like certain things because if you do, then you're on the wrong side. You're a bad dog owner. You shouldn't own dog. I mean, people say some horrible things. And so, I think there's just a lot to hopefully be diffused in that way. And, it was the hardest thing I ever did, raising dogs naturally. And I did it that way from the beginning. Thanks. You were a huge part in that because I knew I couldn't do it any other way because of what had happened to Violet. I was like, I will not, harm an animal. And in my eyes, from what I had learned, a lot of the traditional stuff, you're harming them. And so I couldn't do it. And I felt a tremendous responsibility for putting little lives into the world, into families' homes that, it's like, if I can do anything to, minimize the heartbreak and the expense, in the long run, skeletal issues, allergies, cancer, like all these things that when you learn about holistic practices, especially if they're done from the foundation, you can head a lot of things off at the pass. And so, I mean, it's a lot of work to do it that way. And so for anybody to kind of come at you and say, you're doing this for profit and all those things, people have no idea when you do it this way, how expensive it is, which is why the cost is reflected in the puppy. It's nobody's making bank on these holistically raised dogs. And I think that's a huge misconception as well. But let's shift a little bit and talk about, let's talk about the idea of holistic animal care in general. I think that's a very broad term. I think it's a buzzword.
Right.
I think it can mean a lot of things. And it can mean nothing. So I think let's start by talking about some of the misconceptions. In your perspective, I mean, you run a holistic veterinary practice. You have people come into you all the time because you are a holistic vet. that doesn't mean you're having the same mindset walk in your door every time either. And so what do you find in your practice where, you feel like there's just there's misconceptions, or there's myths, or there's misunderstandings about truly what holistic means and the mindset of that?
Yeah. And it has almost become somewhat of a meaningless term. Never mind the fact that my practice is called holistic veterinary care.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I had the advantage that when I went off to study natural medicine, I started with homeopathy. And the advantage there is the veterinary homeopathy course. I really had very little idea of what I was getting into. It was one of those situations where I'd actually taken a weekend homeopathy course when I was in vet school and thought it was kind of bogus. And then I had been in practice for about 5 years, getting very frustrated with conventional practice. We could not cure disease. Really, I ended up just kind of writing prescriptions all day. I felt like a drug dealer. And I was starting to think to myself, like, okay, what am I doing here? And then I saw this ad for the veterinary homeopathy course that I'd probably seen 100 times. And all of a sudden, I just thought, I have to take this course. So that was how I ended up doing that. At the time, Dr. Richard Pitcairn was still teaching the course himself, pretty much single-handedly. And the reason it was an advantage to start there is because he taught us holistic medicine. So we had 5 week-long sessions where I flew to Eugene, Oregon, 5 times that year. One whole session about the diet and feeding a raw diet, a whole session about supplements, a whole session about vaccines, a whole session about rabies. And so while learning homeopathy, we also just learned how to practice natural medicine. Now, homeopathy, one of the ways that it is different from conventional medicine is has a very strong philosophical basis. What is health? How do you know when you're sick? How do you know when you're getting better? What do symptoms mean? And so pretty quickly, I figured out that I could bring that mindset, that philosophical basis to any practice of medicine. So holistic doesn't necessarily mean I use essential oils, I use herbs, I use remedies. Technically, if drugs weren't so suppressive and so oppositional to what the body is trying to do, you could use drugs in a holistic practice. They wouldn't necessarily fit into the paradigm, but it's about how I perceive my patients, how I understand health and disease to be working in the body. And that is what makes my practice holistic, in my opinion. So it's not about the tools, it's about the understanding of what the animal's body is trying to do. And so some of that is just the basic idea that your body is not trying to screw you over. It's not trying to get you back for the wine you drank yesterday, or for every French fry you've ever eaten. Your body is always trying to survive. It's always doing whatever it has to do in order to remain functional and detoxify and keep you moving and keep you alive. And so with that understanding, then you just kind of try to enhance that and build upon it. So I remember back when I used to listen to NPR, they had a doctor on who said something like, well, when you get cancer, your body has made a mistake. And I thought, really? Really? You really think that your body is capable of making a mistake? Like, what is your body saying? Like, oh gosh, I was watching the game and while I wasn't paying attention, those cancer cells, they just multiplied out of control. Like, what? That is not even possible. Like, it's not a realistic concept. And so all these things have kind of led me down this path of learning how to support my patients better, how to improve their health more naturally. And I will basically treat anything. Some things I like to treat more than others. Some things are certainly easier, but I have people come in with 6-month-old dogs and I have people come in with 16-year-old dogs. And at any point, we're going to start to improve their health. We'll put them on a more natural diet. We'll figure out what organ systems need to be better supported, and we go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at it as it's not so much as it's like, with the choices that you make, you know, if we go back to kind of that holistic umbrella that people normally might think of, right? You said natural diet, right? Like that, that's a common one with natural diet. What do we mean by that? Well, we mean fresh food. We mean real food, not powder covered, you know, something covered over powder that, you know, they processed in a factory, and that's what my dog's eating, right? Real food. That's what we mean by that. But it's like, when we continue to make those types of choices, we're moving away from the traditional, because unfortunately, in the traditional realm, a tremendous amount of it is it does not work with the system. It works against the system. It burdens the system. This is where we start talking about things like toxic load, and you know, you're not nourishing or helping the system do what it's naturally trying to do and creating homeostasis. It's trying to balance itself all the time.
Right.
Help it to do that. And we've just been so conditioned to think, oh, I see a symptom, they must be sick. There must be something wrong. When in all actuality, you start to gain an understanding and a respect for how the body was designed, and that there is a system in place, lots of systems in place to keep this animal healthy and thriving. And the body is just trying to kick out the bad stuff. So detox is what's happening. But to us, oh my gosh, they have an ear infection. I need to get them on antibiotics right now. No, let the body detox. Let it push its stuff out, right? So it's not so much about being anti-traditional. It's about, I want to be for things that actually are going to support the system, right? And so I think that's probably the bigger difference. And it's just, there are core things that land in that camp that are fresh, raw food, right? Natural medicines over pharmaceuticals, things like that.
Yeah, sometimes I think of it as, in the conventional medical model, symptoms indicate weakness. And I think that is not true. In the homeopathic understanding, let's say you have a dog that has a high fever, or gets really sick, like scary sick. You have to have a robust constitution in order to be able to produce that high fever. Somebody with a weak constitution, somebody who is weak systematically, they can't do that. Their bodies are not able to mount that kind of a fever. And so it's not necessarily something to be feared or squashed. It's something to be supported and worked with, which I realize in some ways sounds kind of insane, but stick with us. It'll make sense in the long run.
Well, and see, here's the other thing. We've experienced this.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while.
You know, I mean, I've had plenty of situations, you know, I was just reminded this morning when I was talking through some of this stuff as we were getting ready to do these podcasts. You know, I've had situations where, had it been years ago, I would have freaked out. I would have panicked. Something was going on with my dog. I would have rushed her to the emergency vet, and there would have been, who knows, right? Like the thousands of dollars of bills that I would have walked out with to save my dog. And I remembered a particular instance with one of my girls. She, you know, she was lactating. She was nursing. She had just, I think, had 2 puppies. So it was a very small litter. But I had been away for a couple days at Nicole's because she had a litter. And so my family was watching this mama, and I came home so excited to see Evie, and she was not herself. And I was like, what is going on? And she was outside. And so we got her inside, and she laid on her dog bed, and she didn't pick her head up, and she wasn't moving, and she was trembling. And I was like, what is going on? And, you know, I felt her over. Well, sure enough, one of her mammaries was very engorged and inflamed and hot, and all these different things. Most people in that situation would have panicked and brought her to the emergency vet. Because of the holistic belief mindset that we are talking about, I was able to stop and look at my tools, which is homeopathy. There's different remedies that you can do for that. There are different essential oils you can do for that. These are great tools. And within 4 hours, she was up and playing with her toy. That is, I mean, if you were to have seen her, you would have thought she was dying. I mean, it was that drastic in a matter of 4 hours. So, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case every time, but it's just a very different mindset. It's a very different approach. You start to be able to look at things through a different lens and understand that nature's design is amazing. And the way that the body is designed is amazing. And you don't have to jump at everything. You can actually like work with it.
Right. Like one question that I get quite often is, my dog has Lyme disease. Do you have a natural antibiotic for that? And my answer is no, because I don't use antibiotics to treat Lyme disease. I have not needed to use antibiotics for Lyme disease in I don't know how many years. It typically is very responsive to homeopathic remedies. But I think too, like one of the things that I love about that story with Evie is that Melissa also works. She has a family. She has children. Like holistic doesn't mean quit your job, stop all your other interests because now you're going to spend 100% of your time looking at your dog. Right? It's
or
like
preparing their food or
exactly. Like we all have other things going on. And so holistic is not the same as neglectful or not doing things. We think about our dog's health differently. We cultivate rather than constantly patch up and try to repair. I mean, obviously disasters do happen at times. But it's just a different way of understanding things. And then we incorporate these things into our life. And so I meet with plenty of people who are like, raw diet. I heard about it. I want to do it, but oh my God, it's so complicated. I don't know what to do. I don't have time. And it's actually like, it's not hard. Once you get there, you realize that it was actually super simple. But like both of us spend a lot of time helping people take those first steps, make order out of chaos. When it comes to raw feeding, I always tell people like it's way easier than you think. It might require you to be a little bit organized. Like I had such a setback when I started raw feeding. My big problem was I could not remember to thaw the food out. And like that was stumbling block number one that I had to fix because I couldn't proceed past that. If I had to think about, and I have to put this in my dog's dish. And I have to give them supplements. And I have, like none of it would ever have happened.
Right.
I like stumbling block number one just took me out. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to remember this? So I really had to train myself. Thaw, serve. Thaw, serve, because that was the level that my brain could handle at the time.
Well, it's so drastically different than scoop out of a bag. I mean, it really is. It just that shift is it's a lot. It's a lot, but it does not have to be complicated.
Right. And then when it came to supplements, so I got the thaw serve thing down. Then when it came to supplements, oh my gosh, that just blew me away. I could not figure out how to consistently get the supplements into my dog's food. That was back when I had 7 dogs. And so part of what helped me was, for one thing, I just woke up one day and thought, well, what if I had 7 children and I had to make their lunches before they left for school? Oh, that was easy.
Yeah.
Right? And so basically you put out the dishes, you put the food in the bowls, you put the supplements in with
Assembly
the food.
line.
You don't really have to think about it a whole lot. The other stumbling block that I had of just forgetting to use the supplements, I learned from Martha Stewart. And so basically, I was putting the dog's food together here, but the supplements were in a cabinet way over there. And one day I was like, oh my gosh, this is why I'm not using them, because they're over there and I'm over here. So I just had to move the supplements. Even now, if I'm going to give my dog supplements, they have to sit on the counter.
Okay.
Where I can see them,
Yeah.
or I will just forget they exist.
Well, and I love that you use the analogy of like when you're feeding your children. I love that analogy because that really, that was what occurred to me. So we were so excited. We went through the canine nutrition certification course. We did that together, which was so much fun. We were such nerds. It was super fun.
Yeah, feedreal.com.
Yes,
highly
Feedreal.
recommend.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Great
Everything
course,
about them.
very inexpensive.
And follow them on Instagram. Their posts are phenomenal.
Oh, really?
I want to applaud them every time. I love
cool.
them. Okay. Anyway, side note. But I was thinking, because I was going to team up with Dr. Levy, and I was going to be the canine nutritionist that she would just send people to and all of these things. And I was going to get a formulation software for making raw meals for customizing recipe. It was thousands of dollars for this formulation.
USDA spreadsheets.
Oh my God, I was going to do it. And then we went through the course and it was like grass-fed beef liver covered like 15 things. And I was like, okay, so grass-fed beef, got it. And then we got to the whole sardines. We know that's my favorite part. The whole sardines covered the litany of, and I was like, hold on. And so by the time we were finished, this is the analogy I like to use. And this is where I really want to get to people. When we say it does not have to be hard, if you think about how you feed your children, and I'm a crunchy mom. I had 3 kids. I was organic. I was no gluten. I was doing all the things. I had food groups. I fed my kids healthy, quality food from several food groups, and I made sure it was different every day, right? Like I gave variety, but I had my food groups. It is that simple. They didn't need all these vitamins. They didn't need all this extra stuff. That's how it is with dogs. And so, you know, I understand in a world of, like we talked about, precision, my goodness, people want exact. I don't want my dog to be deficient. But the reality is we have made it way too complicated. It has become way too, you know, it is really like you have this variety of whole foods. And then within that, you switch up these few things and you're good. You feed them like you feed your kids. I'm not going to have a spreadsheet of macro and micronutrients and vitamins and minerals to feed my 4-year-old. I'm going to pick healthy foods that are the best I can afford. And I'm going to feed a variety to make sure that their nutritional needs are met. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it is actually very simple.
Yeah. So is there any other thing that comes to mind? I think, you mentioned something that I was going to bring up. The idea that, you know, holistic means you don't do preventative medicine. We're reckless. We're not doing anything. We're a danger. We're lazy. We don't do anything we're endangering the dog population because we don't do anything. And I've had a lot of people come after me in comments on social media with that assumption that, you know, well, you're not vaccinating, so that means that you're, you know, not doing anything. And I think that is something that I really hope we can debunk, because that is the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some investment involved. It is simple and easy. It certainly didn't seem that way when I started out. When I started out, like just raising my pets more naturally, now it's like second nature. At first, I think it was also kind of a challenge because, you know, my husband wasn't super on board with it. At some point, you know, he kept kind of griping about the raw food. And finally I said to him, well, if you can scoop dry food out of a Tupperware, you know, you can scoop raw food out of a Tupperware. Like, it's pretty straightforward. And then when it came to supplements, every supplement that I introduced, everything I experimented with, everything I tried on my own dogs, I would try a supplement and I would say like, oh my gosh, don't you think the dogs look better? And he always said to me, they looked fine before. So you do have to kind of be your own little cheering section at times, because I didn't really have anybody else who was doing what I was doing. I didn't really know other people who were feeding raw food. The two examples of people who I knew at the time, one was my friend Cindy, who was a groomer, and she had like 12 of these little dogs that she did competitive fly ball with, like these little hardcore muscle-bound dogs. And she fed them raw food. And I remember being at her house and I said, Cindy, like, just explain to me, like, what do you feed them? And she said, oh, I just use the refrigerator method. And I said, what's that? Oh, every day I just look in the fridge and I say, what do I have? I think my head exploded. I had no idea what she was talking about. So I did not start feeding my dogs raw food based on that. Then at the same time, we had a local raw feeder who got her picture in like the pet page of the Star Tribune back when newspapers were still a thing. And she was supposedly mixing up raw food for her dogs. And she was up to her armpit in some pink sludge looking stuff with her hair hanging in it. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. That's gross. Which it doesn't relate directly to what you were talking about. But I just persisted, right? It was something that made sense to me. Our dogs are designed to eat their natural diet. It's not rocket science. We know what dogs are designed to eat because dogs are pretty much wolves. Right? The modern dog is essentially the domesticated wolf. And ever since, I remember Farley Mowat wrote that book, Never Cry Wolf. That was one of my favorite books when I was growing up. So the book had to have been published in the 70s. And he hung out with a pack of wolves and watched what they ate. And he tried to eat the same things. There was this whole part in there where he tried to cook himself a mouse or something. Yeah.
No.
But in any case, like that is common knowledge, and we're just building on that. It's nothing outrageous. We have, I think, different standards of what we expect our dogs to look like, what we expect to see as a reflection of a healthy dog. And this is something that, when people say to me, why didn't my other vet tell me this? Why didn't my other vet tell me my dog was fat? Why didn't my other vet say that my dog should have a soft coat and not a wiry coat? Because we were not trained to look at dogs that way. We had no idea. And so once you start doing things naturally and you see your dog's bodies change and their coats change and their mental capacity changes, then you end up with a whole different criteria for what is health in the dog. And you could say the same thing about cats. And so it's like each step kind of pulls you a little bit further down the road. I always tell my clients, like, you don't have to be a pro raw feeder by next Tuesday.
Right.
We go stepwise. And so that's why, like, I love the guide that you wrote, because it really is like, here's where you start. Like you put together a shopping list.
I did.
Which just gives you everything that you need, with a variety built in, with supplementation built in. And so it is a lot simpler than you think.
Yeah. So I think, we're really going to be exploring, I think, in, the first few episodes, it's going to be very important that we really just kind of set the stage with mindset, because I think, that's something that is very important. And I think it's probably the biggest piece. It's the starter piece. When everybody is entertaining this, you've had a dog that's been hurt, you've tragically lost a dog, anything else, and you're like, okay, I see that there's something off. I can't keep doing this, but I don't know what to do. And, all of those types of things. It's like, you need the groundwork to understand why, this concept, this belief system, there's a reason that people land here and get very passionate about it, because you do see the difference in your animals, and you do experience, I don't experience vet bills. Like, I don't, there's, my dogs aren't, scratching their skin off. They're not having a problem every time I turn around. They're not on medication, those types of things. And so, hopefully in the coming weeks and months, as we explore some of these different things, it will give a little bit more backing and understanding to what may seem new or foreign to, like, this is really how it's been for thousands of years. And a lot of this other stuff that we're all told we have to do is very new, and not actually what works the greatest all the time. So
yeah, actually about 10 years ago, I did kind of a deep dive into, is treating our dogs holistically cheaper than treating them conventionally?
Oh, you did the math.
I did a lot of exploration, and I found that yes, it is.
It is. Well, I would have people come. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I would have people come to me for, I've taken a break from breeding at this point. I'm very focused on the educational piece with you, and want to get to as many people as we can. So I'm not breeding it anymore at this time. But when I would have people call me. They would catch wind that I did things holistically, and they were very interested in that whole concept. And I can't tell you how many people, they just lost a dog to cancer, and the number they would give me of what they spent in vet bills, one of them was over $10,000, and I don't think that was uncommon.
Oh, that's kind of nothing in this day and age.
I don't think that was uncommon. And so, I would love to hear what you found.
Right, because it turns out that maintaining health is cheaper than trying to repair it.
Oh, ounce of prevention?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, too, like, some of us, I certainly have been in situations where I've brought home dogs with lots of problems. I've been told, you shouldn't have this dog. You should keep this dog. You're not the right person for this dog. And really, like, there are things that can be fixed. Not everything, but a lot of things can be fixed with just a different approach. If you think about the dog differently, if you think about what we're trying to have happen. Another question that I get asked often, as everybody might imagine, is, what can I give my dog for this? Whether it's anxiety, whether it's seizures, whether it's allergies, whatever, what can I give? And it's I think people are kind of coming close to the right question, but it really is about doing things differently. And so when we're talking about the holistic mindset, when we're talking about the natural approach, it is, how can we say this, like a whole dog, whole life approach versus saying, well, instead of this anxiety med, I'm going to give valerian or something like that. It's not replacing drugs with herbs specifically. It really is kind of a different way of living with our dogs. And, there might be people, certainly, people have dogs for different reasons. People want to have different types of relationships with their dogs. But that's what I want. My dogs are my family. We all live in the same house. Like, I want to live with them in community versus, I don't know, like treat them as separate from myself in some way, while understanding that they are not little humans. So they are definitely different from us. But when, like, the day that you choose to bring home that puppy, you're starting a relationship that will hopefully last the lifetime of the dog, at least. We certainly wish that they lived as long as we do. And so that also is what I think makes it kind of a different approach. That is what holistic in some ways means to me when we're talking about dog health. Does that make sense?
Thank you so much for joining us. Our goal is always to encourage others to seek out the holistic approach by way of education and empowerment. You can check out our online resources at wellspringhaa.com. You can follow us on our YouTube channel, Wellspring Holistic Animal Academy, and you can also find us on Instagram at wellspring_HAA. We hope that this has been helpful and that you continue with us on your journey to holistic health for your pets. As always, we're here to be unapologetically all natural.